If you're moving to Vancouver, Washington, you have to know these 12 things before you move. Hey, I'm Hannah Dubyne with Dubyne Realty Group of Coldwell Banker, Maine, right here in Vancouver and Camas, Washington. And today I'm going over the top 12 things you need to know before you move to Vancouver. Let's jump into it. Number one is that Vancouver, Washington is not in Canada. Now I know that sounds silly, but we have to keep in mind that Vancouver to basically the entire world is known as being in Canada. So when you tell people that you live in Vancouver, you have to specifically tell them, I live in Vancouver, Washington, which a lot of times I'll give the landmark of Portland. We're 15-20 minutes away from Portland. Number two, this is my favorite one on the entire list, and that is that we are coffee snobs here in Vancouver and specifically Washington State. I did not realize this growing up because it's normal, but we have a lot of local coffee shops, local coffee roasteries, and most of the country just kind of has their Dunkin' Donuts and their Starbucks, which we have as well, but they're not as well loved as our local coffee shops. I've really come to love the culture of coffee. There really is a culture around coffee here, and some of our local spots are just amazing. We also have coffee stands, which I also didn't realize most of the country doesn't have. These are little stands that are in parking lots where you can't go inside of them, and you usually just have baristas working inside, a couple baristas, and you just drive through. Some of them have two-way drive-throughs, and it's a really smart idea for people on their way to work or school. I remember when I was in school, everyone would come to school with a cup of coffee from the local coffee stand. I have my favorite coffee shops around Clark County, and I have a little guide for this, so I'm gonna leave the link for that down below in the description. Number three is that we don't use umbrellas here. I know that sounds kind of weird because if you've heard about Washington, then you know that it rains here. Typically our rain here is more of a sprinkle and not a downpour like other parts of the country, but people don't walk around with umbrellas on the day-to-day. They usually just put their hood up or they just bear the rain. The only time you see people using umbrellas would be like at a soccer game when they're standing in the rain for a really long time. So if you're walking around using an umbrella, you look like you're sticking out like a sore thumb and you look like you're someone from the East Coast. Number four, this one is really surprising to some people, and that is that we don't have air conditioning in every home. We do not have air conditioning in every home because historically our summers have not gotten so hot that you need air conditioning on a daily basis. I'd say a good part of our summers are in the 70s to the 80s, which is a really comfortable temperature. Now, the last couple years down here in Vancouver, south part of Washington, they've been getting pretty hot. We hit a really, really hot weekend this last summer. It was like 115 degrees, and so air conditioning will become more staple going forward, but just know that air conditioning does not come with every home here. Number five, some people call Vancouver the 𝐂𝐬𝐶. This is a little nickname that the city has picked up over the last couple decades. You typically hear it from younger people because it's something that's caught on with them, but if you hear people say the 𝐂𝐬𝐶, they mean Vancouver. Number six, our scenery is really, really beautiful. We have lakes, rivers, trees, mountains, hikes everywhere all around us, and they're really close by. This, again, is something where growing up, I didn't realize that we were lucky to have this, but a lot of the country is flat or barren, doesn't have trees, and doesn't have that nature all around them. I have a lot of friends who really just love hiking and being outdoors, and they'll spend their weekends just going to lakes and going on hikes. If you're considering moving to Vancouver, this is one of the main draws that people really like about the area and is something that you can really turn into a nice hobby. Number seven, our waterfronts are being completely redeveloped. Over the years, the waterfronts in Clark County, Vancouver area have been kind of run down, but the last decade or so, they've really been vamped up, and over the next decade, they plan to as well. Most recently, the city of Vancouver just completed a project at the downtown Vancouver waterfront. This project cost over $1 billion and was many, many years in the making. And it is so gorgeous. It is an amazing place to hang out. We've got Grant Pier that sticks out, restaurants, bars, fancy milkshake places, coffee shops. There's luxury condos going up. It is absolutely gorgeous. A couple miles down, we have Tidewater Cove on the waterfront, which is going to be getting kind of a facelift over the next couple years as well. And then down in Camas and 𝐬𝐶𝐢𝐠𝐡, at the port of Camas and 𝐬𝐶𝐢𝐠𝐡, they have plans to revamp that area to make it more friendly for people to come in and experience it on the day-to-day basis. So the waterfronts here in Vancouver and Clark County are a really great place to just hang out and enjoy the scenery. Number 8, we do not have a state income tax here in Washington. We are one of the few states in the United States that does not have a state income tax. We do have a sales tax of, around 8 to 10% depending on which city you're in, but we don't have an income tax. So that's really good if you're a high earner. I have a lot of clients who move from Oregon to Washington or California to Washington, and they get like a 5 to 10% raise depending on what they were making and how much taxes they were paying. Number 9, people are really nice here. If you talk to a stranger in line at the grocery store or on the bus or the train or whatever, they're probably gonna strike up conversation with you, and this is definitely not something that the entire nation experiences, so I definitely really like living around other people who are nice. Number 10, PDX, Portland International Airport, is just 10 to 20 minutes away depending on where you live. I gotta say, this is super convenient for me for flying out to conferences and everything around the nation, and it just makes it so that if you like to travel, you get there quick. Portland has a really nice airport that is well managed and it runs smoothly, so if you think you're gonna be traveling a lot, you're gonna be able to get good prices on tickets and make it quickly to your destination. Number 11 is that it rains most of the winter here. Now, as I touched on before, it doesn't downpour all the time. Sometimes that's the image that people get when they think Washington, Seattle, Pacific Northwest. We do get our days where it really pours and we've got a couple inches of water on the ground. But for the most part, it's kind of like a mist or more of a sprinkle for the duration of the day. I gotta say, I really love the rain. I lived in Eastern Washington for a little bit and I really missed it. Eastern Washington's very different than Western Washington, and I love falling asleep to the sound of the rain on the roof. The last thing you need to know before moving to Vancouver is that we experience all 4 seasons here. This is another thing that is a huge blessing, and I've realized is not the norm for a lot of places in the nation. A lot of places get extreme high heat for half the year and extremely cold, tons of snow for half the year. We get an absolutely gorgeous fall with beautiful red and orange leaves everywhere. We get a winter that sometimes gets snow but is cold. It does get freezing in the nighttime. We get a spring where we see cherry blossoms and trees bloom, birds chirp. A charismatic sound I always think of is planes flying, little planes flying in the spring. And then in the summer, we get really nice summers here as well. 70s, 80s, sometimes up to the 90s. So it is nice to experience all 4 seasons here. Overall, Vancouver and Clark County is an absolutely wonderful place to be. I love living here. I work exclusively in Clark County. Even if you don't think Vancouver itself is right for you, there are a lot of other close by cities or areas in Clark County that may fit for you. Ridgefield, Camas, 𝐬𝐶𝐢𝐠𝐡. You could be up in Salmon Creek, 𝐵𝐿IDA. I'm happy to explore that with you, and if you have any questions about the area, please let me know. If you want to know everything about living in Vancouver, Camas, and Clark County, tips, tricks, places to eat, what you need to know before you move here, make sure you subscribe to my channel and look out for the next video. Thanks for watching.